Successful gardeners know that you can have more produce coming out of your garden than you can eat in one season. And then you don't have any beans or corn until the next growing season, which could be another 9 or 10 months.
That's why it's very important to know how to preserve, canning, freezing, and drying.
Today we're going to show you how to do all three.
If you have a freezer, the easiest thing to do is freeze your excess vegetables.
If you have string beans, simply snap off the stems and throw them away. Boil water in an 8-quart pot. When the water is boiling, drop the washed beans into the boiling water for about 3 minutes. Have a bowl filled with ice water on the side. Immediately strain the beans and drop them into the cold ice water, which will immediately stop the cooking process.
Strain the beans and place them into freezer bags or containers. Remember to label them with date. The frozen beans will keep in the freezer for up to 1 year.
Corn can be blanched and frozen. Boil corn on the cob for 7 minutes. If you are only freezing kernels of corn without the cob, boil the corn while still on the cob for 4 minutes, and then cut the corn from the cob. Then package the corn the same way as you would for green beans and freeze.
Fruit can be frozen fresh. When freezing blueberries, remove leaves and twigs.
Make sure to take out the rotten blueberries before you freeze them as well.
But do not wash before freezing. This will cause the fruit to have tougher skin. Simply place the blueberries in portioned freezer bags or containers and set into the freezer. The blueberries will keep frozen for about 1 year. Wash them just before you are ready to eat them.
Tomatoes can be preserved in a variety of ways. They can be frozen, canned whole, made into ketchup, salsa, spaghetti sauce, and much more.
To freeze tomatoes, begin by dropping the whole tomatoes, skin and all, into an 8-quart pot of boiling water for 30 seconds. Remove the tomatoes from the boiling water and place them in an ice bath. Once cool, slip the peels off the tomatoes and place them in freezer bags or freezer containers.
If you don't have a freezer or you don't have enough space in your freezer to store produce, you can always can your veggies. Save them in jars. The canning process takes far more time than freezing fresh produce. You will need a large pot or pressure cooker, jars, lids, lid rings, and utensils for dipping your veggies, as well as the tools for handling hot jars.
Pressure cookers are needed for food that are low in acidity. Tomatoes and pickles have enough acidity to be canned safely without a pressure cooker.
Make sure all of the utensils, especially the lids and jars, are clean.
Boil the utensils, jars, and lids for 2 or 3 minutes to make sure they are sterile.
You should wash vegetables and discard any damaged ones before putting them in your jars. For canning tomatoes, blanch them using the same instructions for freezing. Once the tomatoes are blanched, peel and pack them into the sterilized canning jars, leaving headroom.
Put as many as you can inside the jar. We don't need any liquid when we are canning the tomatoes. When we process them, they are going to release more of the juice of the tomato, so that would be enough liquid. And as we mentioned before, because the tomato have acidity, we don't need to add anything except salt if you want.
The jars should not be filled higher than the beginning of the lid rim. Then put the lids on the jars.
Quart-sized jars should be processed in a boiling water canner for 45 minutes. Remove the quart jars from the canner with tongue.
As the jars are cooling down, you will hear pops. This is a good sign. The rubber on the lids is forming an airtight seal to the jars. This will prevent the seepage of air from the jars that would cause your produce to spoil.
Cucumbers can be preserved into pickles using the same process. Cut cucumbers lengthwise or into slices. Fill the sterilized jars with cucumbers. Boil white vinegar with the spices. You can use pickling spices including dill, clove, black pepper, bay leaves, oregano, and or other spices you like.
When the vinegar has come to a boil, immediately fill the jars, making sure to leave headroom. Place the lids on and process in the water boiling canner for 15 minutes.
It is best to consult a home canning book on processing times for various produce. Drying is a way to preserve a seasonal harvest as well. Drying herbs is very simple.
Harvest the herbs from the garden and wash them. Dry by shaking the water off of the herbs, then patting them dry with a paper towel or clean cloth towel. Do not microwave or put the herbs in the oven. This causes the loss of essential oils. Instead, place a layer of paper towels on a tray.
Once you dry the herbs, you can lift them off of the wet paper towels and place them onto a dry paper towel and tray. That way they won't rot when they're drying. They'll be nice and dry, and you can allow them to dry. Leave them in a cool, dry place in your home.
Herbs will be dry when you are able to crumble them.
Once they're dry, you can pick the stems out, and you can place them into any size glass container just by taking them off of the tray and placing them into the container.
Once herbs are dry, store in a cool, dry place.
If you have any questions, visit the canning vegetables area of our website.
Funding for this project was provided by the U.S. Department of Agriculture, National Institute of Food and Agriculture.
This segment was produced through the partnership of the Southern University Ag Center, Louisiana Public Broadcasting, and the ExxonMobil YMCA.